Hi, in this video, I will discuss a use case scenario to load all the files in Azure SQL Server from Azure Gen2, and we'll be using Synapse to execute this task. And the condition will be this load will complete if all the file exists. If any of the file is missing, we'll fail the pipeline. And in the next phase, I'll send email if any of the file is missing, and we will load all the files only if all the files are existing in the Gen2 location. Now, to keep this video short, we will execute up to this step 4, which is failing the pipeline if any file is missing, or succeeding the pipeline if all the files exists. Now, in next 2 videos, I will create send email pipeline, and another video I will create a load data pipeline to complete this entire use case. On the onset, I would like to say some people name it as Synapse, but I am happy to call it a Synapse. That's what I'm familiar with, and I'll be calling in rest of my videos. And for this one, I have created a table named ETL config, which consists of the item, which is just an identifier, just a incremental values whenever we insert any data. So we'll have the table where we want to load the data, the file path, the Gen2 file path from where we'll be loading the data, and the file name and the extension. And also we're keeping an indicator with a file to load or not. So in this case, if you see, we have 2 files, and both the files I've kept the file load indicator as 1. So we wish to load these 2 files. So I'll tell you later on why I created this table. If you don't have this kind of table, also you want to check all the file exists. So in that case, what you can do is, in the Synapse pipeline, you can create a variable with list of files you want to check. So to make it more dynamic, or make it more real-time project, I have created this table in the Synapse. I'll be looking up to this table always and check for which files to load and what are the file names, in which table it will be loaded. So those sort of things will be recorded in this table. That's the reason I've created this table. But as I said, you can do it using a variable and keeping a pre-existing file names and the table names, all the information there. So just to show you, in this table, these are the data I have loaded in this config table. Now I have created the source tables also, where these files will be loaded respectively, but we'll come to that part in the later point of the video, in the next part of the video. Now in this Synapse workspace, I've created a Synapse workspace here. I'll create a different video to show how to create Synapse workspace, but assuming you guys know how to create Synapse workspace, I'm straight going to creating the pipeline. But before that, a couple of things I should mention. I have created the data sets. This is the ETL config datasets, which is nothing but this data here. It will read this data here, and also I have created source files, which is nothing but sourcing the Gen2 files. Now here, to do that, you need to create link services. So here, this is Azure SQL Database link services, which will link all the tables in this database. So if you go here, you will see the database name and the domain name where you want to connect it, and the authentication using the username and the password which I have created for this database. So this will authenticate to connect to this SQL Server database and access all these tables for the rest of the purpose of this task. So we need to create this link services. Also, there is a default link service creates whenever you create the Synapse workspace. They will ask for to connect with the data lake Gen2 storage account. So this is the storage account link services already created while creating the workspace, and this is the link it will create. So using this link service and this link service, I have created two of the data sets initially I need. Now I will go to create the pipeline now. So in this pipeline, let me name it as Synapse check all files exists. Now in this pipeline, first I will create set variable activity. I'll tell you later on why I created this variable activity. Set execution date. Now I'll create a variable name execution date, and I'll create a parameter with run date. Now whenever we run a pipeline, we can pass a run date parameter, or we can ignore it. So in that case, this activity will set the parameter execution date's value, depends on whether we pass it or not. So the condition will be if run date is not null, then we will generate the execution date. So we'll use coalesce variable here, coalesce function here. So run date, then if not exist, we will use ut now function. Yeah, utc now function, and we'll format this using format datetime function. Yeah, and the format will be mmdd. So that will end my expression for this. So I'll quickly run this one. Let's say I am passing a null run date. So if I execute this, yep, I'll see the output. So it's 7/16. That's today's date, if you can see here. Now if I pass a parameter while running, it will take that parameter. So if somebody wants to run a backdate date, then they can pass it. So let's say 2023/07/15. if I pass it now, so that variable setup will be according to that. Yep, so it's 7/15. So I'll come to next part. I'll come to next part where I'll show why I need this variable. So next I will get the metadata of all the files exists in our Gen2 source. Now I will make this I will make the source of this get metadata as this one here, and I will check all the child items here. Now if you check this source file data source, I have kept the path as the data as the root, and then path as source/star, because my source path looks like this. So all the files in the child roots will be listed if I use source star. So that's the reason I have used it as source star as my source. So in this get metadata, it will find all the child items. Now if I run it quickly, okay, so there is a mistake here. We need to remove this slash, and then I can run it. Yep, it executed. Now if I see here, if you see, all the child items are these. So this file present in the good graduation path, and this file present in the polling data path, if you see here. So that's the, I'm just trying to make it more formalized, more project targeted. And if you see here, the files are with the dates. In the real-time scenario, most of the cases file comes with dates. That's how we will indicate which file was loaded on which date. That's the reason in this Synapse workspace I have kept this variable execution date, so that we can be using to filter these files for that particular run date or execution date. And if you see here in this table, we have only the file name prefix, so we can append that execution date to find out the exact file from the Gen2. And here we will set up a variable with all these items. As all files available. So I'll create a new variable, all files available. I'm keeping it as a string. I'll tell you why. Because if I make it as a list, there is a problem in Synapse. If you use contents function, that tries to search a string. Now in this set variable, I will set the variable of all files available, and here what I will do is get metadata output dot value. Yeah, now if I execute this one, okay, if I just remove the value, that's an object. Now I have already saved this function. Yeah, the child lambda. So I will use this expression. I'll pause it here for a minute to make sure everyone gets this. Yeah, I'll remove this. So from this activity, I'll convert it as string because that's the output of this activity is an array. I'll convert it into string and I'll remove all the unnecessary characters. So I'll click on OK. I will show you what's the unnecessary characters I'm talking about. Yes, so this child item contains the value up to this. So I'll remove this, I'll remove these, I'll remove these. I'll just keep the file names into a string by a comma separated output. Now if I run it and we can check what's the output coming. Yep, if I check here, the output is coming as the file name with a comma separation. Now from here I will check in the later point whether the file which we need here exists in that list. So that will validate that our file is actually present in this Gen2. Now here I will read the data. So I will do a lookup from this ETL config, and then I will pass this lookup to a set variable activity here, and there I will set a variable all files needed. I will create this variable as an array here, all files needed, and the value will be the output of the lookup and then I will have a for each activity. So for each of this file, I will check if condition. Yep. So for each of this files for each of the files needed, I will check if that file is present in here using the if condition. Now in this if condition, I will have the if condition as contains so this variable all file availables contains item of so every item has the file name, prefix. I'll copy this name from here. It has file name prefix. Then concat comma the execution date, which is a variable, and then item the file extension. Yeah. Now I forgot, I will add a fail if this condition fails. So in this fail, I will give error message in a dynamic content. It will be item the file name prefix comma not exists in item What is the source path? This is the file path. So we'll send out this message with a 400 error code. And actually I forgot to add a filter condition here, so we'll do lookup and we'll add a filter here. In here after only the filter condition we will go to execute this for each. So what's the filter condition is going to be output of these parameter, all files needed is the item, and the filter condition is equals file load equals to 1. That's the filter condition. Now if I run this, yeah, all files needed is an array. Output dot value. That was the mistake here. So if I just rerun it, I will get it through hopefully. So I will zoom it out. Okay, value does not exist. So from this lookup, what is the output of this lookup? Okay, there was a problem in this lookup. I think setting was wrong. It has to be all the data. If I run debug, yeah, set variable to succeeded. Now, yeah, it is failed. Now, so there is a problem, I think. File name prefix and extension. Why the file name prefix and if I go here and check the for each, the filter one output, it has the table name, file path, prefix txt. Now what is the condition? Concat file name prefix execution date and file name extension. So the output came as if I remove this, if I execute it again, yes, now we have the files with a different date here. So if I pass it with this date, it should succeed now. Yep. 2023.007. Fifteenth. So if I pass this date, yeah, the one condition succeeded where the file has extension CSV, and the other one failed where it is looking for the extension .txt. If we go here, it's the CSV. Now if I just rename this file, or rather clone it using txt and keep this file here, and run it, fifteen, and then check. If you see here, both the if conditions succeeded because we have both the files here. So this one validates that we have all the files which is needed. Now the main thing to notice here is to set a couple of variables with all the files available by getting all the metadata and setting them using this reflex function. And then in the next part, looking up to the table which contains all the files needed to load, and setting up the variable here to all the files needed, and then applying the filter where the files to load indication is 1. Now this is completely depends on what you want to structure your project. If you don't want this table, it's completely fine, and you can keep this filter out of this condition, and you can have this variable with a fixed value added here, default value added here, and completely ignore looking up to this table. Main thing is we need to set this variable all files needed, and then in the for each we'll be checking in the if condition if all files available contains that all file needed. We'll be looping through all files needed array. That's why if you see here, the all files needed is an array. So each items in this array will be checking if that is present in this all file available. So this is the condition. So I've used concatenation of the file name prefix, the execution date, and the extension, because my file format is that file name, execution date, and the extension. So that's how I have validated this file exists or not. If it doesn't exist, I will fail it, and then in the next video I will show how to send the email to a particular email ID if the pipeline fails, or if the file doesn't exist condition is true. Rather, I should call it if the file exists condition fails. In that case, I will send an email here and then fail the pipeline. So that will be part of the next video. Thank you.